Welcome back, everybody, to another episode. Actually, technically, this is the first episode after the pilot that I just recorded. And guys, I mean, seriously, I am stoked that my first guests are who they are. These are the visionaries and founders behind the project This Is Me. Together and individually, they are career high achievers and pioneers. Together, their accomplishments span the dimensions. I love that word, dimensions, of multiple Big Ten championships while playing football at Ohio State, a WWE Women's World Championship, visionary culture creation within highly successful business ventures, entrepreneurship, innovative and first-to-market product design and invention, state-of-the-art fitness, training and body optimization, to now transformational life coaching, personal and business relationship consulting and speaking. Did we miss anything there? Now we're going to do the Omar version of my intro to them. You know when you see couples on social media or just anywhere in life, and then you look at them, you're like, Barfarama, like, it's like, ugh, get off the screen. Guys, these guys are soulmates. Like, I love these guys. Watching them together is goals. And so as awesome as that intro was that I set up for them, honestly, they're my heroes because they're like what I'm striving for in life, right? And as awesome as their accomplishments are, they're just amazing fucking people, right? And so I'm blessed and honored to have them as my first guests. Grant and Celeste, welcome to the Dumb Show.
Wow, dude, that was way to hit us right in the feels just off the bat.
Right in the feels.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
I want to jump right into it, right?
Sure.
Let's talk about this hair I've got going on, right? I mean,
you are looking
digging
amazing.
it,
Yeah. It's really. I know you want to jump into it, but it's a privilege for us, and I know you and I we go back years to kind of like our past lives of the industries and the things that we were doing, and so it's really beautiful to connect with you now at this era of our lives. All of us, our lives intersecting, and so we feel very, very honored.
Truly, and on my behalf, and I mean, I'm sure it'll come up, but like, I have quite a few sisters, and it's like growing up as the brother, it was like, who's this guy that's around now? So it's very humbling to me to hear something like that from men who were in Celeste's life before I was, and to like have that acceptance. So the pleasure's all ours.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so let's get to it. Tell us a little bit briefly about how you guys met and, what's been going on since that time. And because it seems to me that it's kind of expeditiously happened, right? You guys have the floor.
Okay. So we met in Arizona at a mastermind. Grant was speaking at a mastermind, and it was just one of those things where literally every single thing he was saying was meant for me, I felt like. And I was at a really interesting point in my life. I had just gone through a really difficult divorce, a lot of just soul searching. I was at a place where I had a lot of pain and wanted to figure out something new, something more for my life. And he entered my life in such an interesting way. And that was 4 years ago on December 1st. So we actually got married on December 1st of 2022, which was exactly 4 years to the day that we met.
Congratulations.
Thank
by the
you.
way.
Thank you
so much.
Yeah.
So to say the least, the last 4 years has been, for me in my own right, just like a radical awakening for myself of realizing how much choice I do have in what I make my life out to be, and what I want to feel and know and see and be surrounded by. And
I just want to hit on real quick, because it's actually really cool that was the event we met at, and our business is called Project This Is Me Now. And well, it's not called This Is Me Now, but now it's called that. And for that event, my buddy that was hosting the mastermind, he looked at me and he was like, we're out to dinner when I was visiting one time, and he's like, I want you to speak at my mastermind. I was like, cool, what do you want me to speak about? He's like, just talk. And I was like, for how long? He's like, 90 minutes. And I was like, who am I talking to? He's like, it'll be about 70 to 100 people. And I was like, that's awesome, but like any kind of direction. He's like, I just love the way you sound when you talk, so just, I trust you. And I'm like, okay, cool. And all I knew to talk about was my struggles, because it's like, it's so easy to get up in front of a room and try and distinguish yourself as like the guru. Yeah. And it's like, you end up just attacking everybody else as opposed to focusing on yourself. But through that process, all I knew was to talk about what I had been through and how that could maybe help other people out. And it ended up being everything I talked about was her.
Wow.
So it kind of
serendipity.
Like, it kind of like when we look back at our journey and just the unfolding of so many things of, you know, who and what we have been becoming since we have been intertwined in our lives. We've been spending our lives together, and ultimately in marriage and union, is that we both held these pieces that helped unlock the other one. So one is always the lock and one is always the key, and that's actually such a profound and prevalent piece of the work that we do together as well. Like when we work with somebody, one of us is always a lock and one of us is always the key, and it's really this dance of what our relationship is, and how it's opened us up individually, and that's essentially what we share through our work. And so everything in our lives is so intimately tied and intertwined together. The message is one, you know, it's becoming, it's just the evolution of constantly becoming more and more of yourself and who you are through choice and truth.
So this handsome devil of a man over here is up there talking for 90 minutes, apparently. And you're in attendance at this thing, right?
Right.
And so did it click in that moment that, like, I'm into this guy? Or, like, what were the emotions going through your mind at that point? Or was there nothing and you're just like, we're just taking in what he was saying?
It's funny, like, looking back at that time and trying to bring myself back to where I was in a, like, my level of awareness of myself, I really couldn't decipher the messages between my heart and my mind. You know, I was...
it's hard sometimes.
Yeah, I was struggling so bad with my business. And when I left the WWE, I started a clothing business, a women's clothing business, and I was struggling so bad. I had had it for a couple of years, so I went to the mastermind in hopes of answers of, like, you know, how I can, you know, grow my business, and really what I was actually looking for was that feeling of success, the feeling of, like, man, you know, I know what I'm doing. I can hold my own. I can, and you know, everything that I felt on the inside, I was like, maybe this will help give me the formulation I need. And I left the mastermind with, like, no answers as far as, like, what I thought I needed. And, but you know, looking back, I left with the raw materials of everything I actually needed, which was him, and everything to come, and my unfolding and, you know, awakening to what there is in life, like what you can feel, what you can have, and what you can know. So what I thought I needed, I didn't get, but what I really did need is truly what I received. And it's been consistently shown to me over and over again.
Well, and I also, like, it's so much fun, like, for us now to be able to look back at that and realize, like, that was such a profound, like, event, I think, because of the dynamic of our relationship, and to be able to truly look back, and we have, you know, it's on camera, like, the things that were said and how much, like, we watched it about a year ago before we did a speech together out in Vegas, and we were like, I don't even know if I'd ever watched it, and we're both like, oh my God, the message is the exact same still. We're like, it's so cool. But to know now what she was struggling with then, all I talked about in my entire speech wasn't really around entrepreneurship and business, but it was based on individuals. But like, I started out literally being like, you know, we're all entrepreneurs in this room. What are one-word answers that make up our business? And everyone's, you know, marketing and strategy and, you know, emails and whatever. And so I wrote all these words down on the board, did the whole speech. And I was like, so the one word that everyone struggles to put into their business, and I just wrote you on the board. And it's like, we don't put ourselves into our business. We don't put ourselves into our relationships, into our lives, into our body, whatever it is, because we spend our whole life in fear. And I didn't know that was the extent of my message at the time, but I said those words.
Yeah.
And she didn't know how to receive it at the time, but that was what she was actually struggling with in her business. And it was what I was struggling with in my own business. So literally what I was speaking on was me. And it's like, that's the irony. And it's that our business project, this is me. It's like, we tell everybody it's selfish. You know, it's so fulfilling to us.
I was going to say that the way you're speaking about it makes me think and feel like, man, this is like the literal first iteration of everything that we are, you know? So it's like, you know, every time you kind of evolve into the next version of yourself with your partner or alone or in your business or whatever it is that you're, you know, pouring yourself into, it's like, man, here we are now and it feels new, but I can look back and be like, oh, that was the first iteration. Oh, and this was the second iteration. But you don't see that when you're in it.
Yeah.
It's like what you're creating for your life. It's like, oh my God, like literally.
Like everything you're going through today that's really bad, actually one day you're going to look back and be like, that's cool. But it's just today's the oldest you've ever been. It's like this is you don't know the answers yet. Like you don't know how long the pain is going to last, the confusion is going to last, the anger is going to last, the heartbreak's going to last, whatever it is. But the second you have it, it's like it becomes quantum. All that collapses, and you're like, "But I didn't realize I was heartbroken for the last 5 years because you just met the love of your life."
Hindsight, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy hearing you guys talk about it because it's like such a parallel to how I live my life, right? In the aspect of everything happens the way it's supposed to, right? And when you're in the thick of it, the midst of it, you don't know why the reason for whatever's happening is. You may find out right away, maybe 10 years later. It may be a time that you don't need that reason, but it may fall in your lap, right? Let me rewind just a bit too. Watching these two guys, if you guys are listening to the podcast on Apple or Spotify, you probably won't see this, but if you're on YouTube, the way these two look at each other when they talk to each other. No, I love these guys.
What you think about?
Your eyes are so beautiful. You're so pretty. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So like, okay, let's fast track it a little bit here because I want to get on the subject. But when did the click occur between y'all two, the spark or whatever?
So at this event, we were actually both at the tail end of relationships in our own right.
Yeah.
I was kind of like on the outs of a relationship. So was she. And so that was like December. And I think it was about, so she had the leggings business and I didn't know how I wanted to like, slide into the DM somehow. So I'm like, I'll repair the leggings. I'll support that.
Oh, he did it already.
And because we'd actually talked to dinner that night. And of course,
the weekend of the mastermind, we talked a lot at dinner.
Yeah, they had like a VIP dinner, 80, 90 people in a room, a bunch of different tables. And of course, we ended up sitting across from each other. And it's so cool now because like other people that were sitting around us, not even at that event.
Was she moving in slow motion?
It was like the wind.
It's like the wind, but all the doors were closed. But somehow the wind was blowing.
Like Garth in Wayne's World.
Yeah. But
it's
everyone else is
essentially our
speaking
love story.
And it's normal.
Yeah.
Creepy enough, Ohio State was playing on the team. Like we're out in Arizona, but Ohio State was playing in a bowl
I used to
game.
play there.
The Ohio State. And I was just like acting like I was I have a video in my phone to this day that I just was like, I have to like capture something of this girl. So I went like this and panned up to the camera, but right across from me, at first it was her. Yeah. And I came up to the TV.
He's shown me that before.
Nice.
It's like, but we had this like instant, the first moment we saw each other was in an elevator at the hotel that was hosting the mastermind. And it was an instant connection.
How long of an elevator ride was it?
Who knows? It could have been eternity, 10 seconds.
It's still going.
Yeah. But what we felt was undeniable. I know, for me, talking about unable to really differentiate between my fear and my feelings and just thoughts that would really take over my entire reality of, ways that I would, feel insecure about myself or not deserving of things that I would be like, I want that, like him, so I think it was really undeniable, the connection that we had instantly. But for me, it took a process of really opening to myself to be like, to truly acknowledge, like, he's like everything I want. There was so much fear around saying that or owning that or embodying that. And so, but that instant connection was undeniable. And then we ended up, like he's saying,
I went through this whole thing where like, I saw her there and I did. People say it all the time. They're like, oh, I just knew first. I literally, it was like a shockwave went through my system. And it was almost like everything before that moment, like got cleared, like pain, trauma, issues, anything. I felt like, and I didn't even know her. And I can remember seeing her on social media. Like we started following each other and just whatever. And I mean, like both of us were completely respectful. We were both in relationships. I wasn't like hitting on her or anything, but like I would see her photos pop up and I can remember being like, does she reminds me of someone, or there's something about her that just like, it feels like home. Yeah. Literally through a screen. And there was nobody that she reminded me of. It was just her.
Just her.
And so I bought a pair of her leggings, tagged her. I was at the gym one morning, was doing a leg workout, tagged her brand in it, and she replied. And that was at like 5 a.m. one morning in maybe the beginning of March. 5 a.m. and we literally started DMing back and forth nonstop for 3 weeks before she came to Columbus to visit me. I already had a trip planned out to be in South Florida. So a week after she had come to visit me, I went down and stayed with her. And at that point, I only went back to Ohio to pack my bags, sell off whatever I could, and essentially tell my family I was moving to Florida.
My man.
Like, and it was, I mean,
Fellas,
I've never scattered that much.
take notes. Take notes. This is how it's done, guys. Okay, Grant, I want to touch on, you mentioned that you were in a relationship, right, at the time. Clearly not in that relationship anymore. Let's talk about some of the dumb shit that you did while you were in that relationship and potentially what led to its demise that opened up the opportunity to be with Celeste.
I think it goes way beyond just like that relationship, because if I try to like think about, and this isn't me like trying to be like Mother Teresa about anything, but as far as like being a man and operating around women, I was raised by women primarily, and I was raised by strong women and very respectful men, like being my uncle, my grandpa. But I wouldn't have been able to appreciate any of that if it weren't for also having a super abusive, alcoholic kind of piece of shit father growing up. And I love him to death for it, because without him, what I experienced would have just been normal. It's like if you live in San Diego, you're like, this is just weather. This is just nice. Without the contrast of cold weather, you don't get to appreciate it all the way.
It's a reverse blueprint.
Yeah, yeah. It shows me, like, he showed me everything I didn't want to be. And
my dad was the same way.
Dude, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, there's so much pain involved. There can be a lot of trauma, and I'm not saying that in a way discrediting anybody's journey of what they've gone through in life, but it's like I was so blessed and so fortunate to have the most amazing group of family on my mom's side that did raise me, and none of them ever talked bad about my father. So it was like this entire lesson overall to like not even like scoff people who do bad things, but rather like create your own opinion about them. But so with that, I've always been like super respectful in relationships to a degree, because what I've come to realize is the only times I've ever actually operated in a way that I can deem stupid is when I was trying to use like external answers to solve internal questions.
I get that. Yeah.
It's like, and it's what we all do. It's like,
you're the only one walking in your own shoes.
Right.
So it's like, you can't resort to what they're going through to fix your problems.
Right.
Totally get that.
Yeah. But it's, you know, it's things I can remember one relationship I was in a long, long time ago, like back in my 20s, I was, it was kind of like, there's always these moments. And I ended up in a bunch of relationships where I didn't really want to be in a relationship, but I didn't want to hurt them and be like, no, that was just like a date.
Time out. So you knew you wanted out, but you stayed in.
Oh, no, I didn't even know I wanted out. I knew I never even wanted to get in.
Wow.
And so it was before I was even in there.
Okay. Not intelligent.
Right.
Could be dumb, and if you describe it in a certain way.
Yeah.
Why, homie?
Because it also filled this void for me. It filled this void.
That void sucks, man.
It does, but it wasn't a void of loneliness or anything like that. I actually, ironically, I enjoyed being alone. Like I enjoyed like time to myself.
Yeah.
But so I grew up with a lot of sisters, and my dad was abusive to them. I felt so powerless in that. And then so I have like 13 sisters altogether. Between my mom got remarried once. Wow. My dad has been remarried like 7 times and has had kids in every one of them. So, but I have one biological sister, and she's like my hero. Like growing up, she was my best friend. She was 4 years older than me. And when I was 5 and she was 9, she was raped by essentially my stepbrother. And I didn't know about that until I was 13. And I found out the day after I got back, like I guess when it happened when I was 5, all of a sudden my stepbrother was just no longer around. I didn't know anything about it. I just knew this dude who was 25, was like a buddy to me, who taught me how to play Atari, like was gone. And when I was 13, I went on a camping trip with my stepdad, and he happened to be there. And I didn't know anything. I didn't think anything about it. I was like so excited to see him again. And when I got back and I told my mom I then found out what the truth about everything was.
Wow.
So it was like I remember like the most powerless feeling of being like, I literally it was like I slept with the enemy. Like I was literally.
You couldn't have known though.
And I didn't know, but it created this ripple effect in me of like this overprotection. And that protection doesn't just look like physically protecting, but emotionally protecting. But when you're talking about like going out on a date with a girl and you're the thing that could potentially emotionally hurt her by going, like, I don't really want this to go any further.
It scarred you.
I felt like it was my obligation to protect her emotions
Yeah.
by, okay, like, let's see where this goes. And it was just one of those things where you go long enough, eventually you get attached. And then it's like, okay, I guess we're dating.
Yeah.
And then you end up looking like the asshole. But there would always be this point in relationships where something would get said. Yeah.
How did that make you feel that you did this to protect them and you had the best intentions going in and then you come out looking like the asshole? What kind of effect does that have on you?
I'm actually really grateful for it because I felt like shit. I felt absolutely awful. And I was like, this is all me. But I was like, how is this happening that I have the best of intentions, but the pain is still happening?
And this happened more than once.
I can think of like 3 times.
Wow.
3 times. Either getting into a relationship that I didn't really want to be in and then being in it for quite a while, or staying in a relationship way past a point where I was just like, dude, this is not healthy. This should not happen. This should not go on. But I stayed in it longer because it's like, what do it's like, because it was hard. It was very hard to disseminate from, this is not my responsibility to ensure that this other person is okay and safe and not emotionally fucked up, even though I'm not emotionally abusing them in any way.
No, I get that.
Which that in and of itself can become emotional abuse.
Did you cut that behavior off, or did that keep going, and did it only stop because you met your soulmate?
So I feel like that it's bizarre. Like how we said, everything is like hindsight 2020 is like, I can honestly say I feel like a completely different human in this after we met. It really was. It was like I was able to see everything, my flaws so clear, for the most part. Obviously I still have them, but
that's such a amazing moment when you see that.
Yeah, it's humbling at the same time.
Yes,
and it was so bizarre because actually like you said, it happened so fast. Everything happened so fast. Like I went down to Florida, visited her. I'm driving back home, and I'm like on the phone with my mom. I'm like, hey, by the way, I'm gonna be back in Ohio in a day. And I'm going to be up there and I'm going to be packing up my things to move down to Florida. And she's like, who?
His mom's the best.
And she's like, okay. She's like, well, I love you.
It's okay, Mom. She's badass.
Well, they had already met.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So we each met each other's families before we even moved in. It
just happened.
It happened.
Like, that was
Everything
crazy.
happened so fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's also, when I was moving down to Florida, there was like 3 phone conversations with people who I consider to be good friends in my life that I realized they're actually just acquaintances. So it was kind of this, and it was literally on the drive down to Florida to move down there. And it was this vibe of like, I'm like washing everything clean. I'm just opening up to everything possible. And so I feel like I went into our relationship almost like a blank slate as much as possible.
Good. How did that make you feel?
Well, I mean,
did you know any of his past, like in these initial, moments of like courtship, I guess?
To be so completely honest, I feel like none of that mattered.
Yeah.
I was in this era of wanting to truly like let go of the way of being or the way of living my life where I was placing blame on everyone but myself.
Yeah.
And I think I had experienced such a threshold of pain that I was like, this is not the way, but I didn't know what the way was. And so, to be honest, none of that actually mattered. And it's also what I felt for him was like so true that I didn't really know how to put a box around it or identify it or say, this is what this is. It was just a feeling. And I was just learning how to listen to that and to tap into like these deeper truths of who I am and the things I desire in my life that are like real, and I had that, and I was in the process of figuring out that I had always pushed that away. Everything in my life, that was true or real, I had pushed it away because I
Why?
didn't know how to have it.
Got it.
I didn't, and and it was something that, like, experiences that shaped me from a really young age, that I formed conclusions and beliefs about, and feelings of unsafety in my body that were created by my own reactions and understandings of what relationships were and what life, what roles people played, what role a father plays, what role a significant other plays, our husband. What I saw was what I created my understanding of the world through.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it was really in that process of, I was like really wanting and craving to let go of these things that I feel like had held me back so much from like my own potential, my own happiness. But it was just this sea of things. And so I was like so deep in like still focusing so much on what I perceived to be all of my shortcomings, and like looking at my life like, fuck, and so none of that actually really mattered. And what I felt for him did feel so true. So there was no like, I need to know all these things about you. My mistrust was so much deeper. It was so much deeper, and it was buried within myself, my mistrust of myself.
Let's go there. The mistrust of what?
Of just like the inability to trust what I feel, because in my life that had shown me the way I had lived my life caused me a lot of pain. The things that I was experiencing that I didn't know how to quantify, didn't know how to change, didn't know how to stop experiencing, that I ultimately was creating by my own behaviors, my own ways of thinking, my own fears, and the way that I guarded myself was creating so much loneliness and so much like isolation, and I felt like I didn't have the ability to truly relate to people on the level that I felt that I wanted to.
What specifically was the culprit that pushed you to that area?
I think it was, I think it was a series of things, as I don't quite exactly know who or the culmination of people I'm quoting, but it like a general understanding I have is that you are who you are by the time you're 5. Like everything you've really like learned and absorbed and seen and experienced and witnessed really creates your personality by the time you're like 5 years old. And then then based on your experiences after that, you create the stories and the things that make sense to you based on what you know to be true. And so
almost like they're all like funnels, like everything you experience after that, it has to get funneled into one of those conclusions that got created.
It's like this person represents this. This person will always hurt me. This role in my life I can't trust this. Those types of things. And a lot of it happened from my mom and my dad's, I think, inability to express themselves to each other. Wow. And to be able to say like, this is what I want. This is what I want here. How do we truly become partners on these things? And because they didn't know how to communicate. They didn't know what was safe to express. They didn't know how to be open and vulnerable, because that's not what they were taught in their lives, in their own lives and in their own families and in what they saw. And so what I experienced is my mom being so hurt all the time and such a victim of circumstances, and having so much anger and feeling like all of the power was outside of her. And so
that's how you're feeling.
It's
in a sense.
Yeah. And it's the way I observed her, and it's the way I observed so many, this lens I had, is I observed so many things in that way. And so, in my cells and my felt sense and my physiology, I developed a mistrust of a father figure, of what that represents, of creating that own protection and safety within myself, that I didn't know how to have that, I didn't know how to feel that. And so I was left with feeling very like unsafe and guarded all the time, because I didn't know what was going to hurt me. I didn't know, it was almost like a lot of the things I saw and recognized in my father, I loved, like his views of the world, like the way I felt around him a lot of the time. But what I learned and what I made sense of the story to me was that was not okay. Like my mom went through, based on what my dad represented, like that way of life and that way of operating was not okay. And so like what I felt in my heart was not, I couldn't have that. It's not okay based on like what I witnessed from my mom and how much anger and resentment she had towards my father, and she verbalized it. And so I painted this picture of my father and who and what he was. and shut him out of my life. And, you know, he has his flaws and my mom has her flaws. But it's like I was with my mom all the time. So I really absorbed her worldview.
Yeah.
And like a lot of those emotions were created in my body because like it's what I understood emotions to be, how she processed them, how she expressed them. And it was always very unregulated and like bouts of rage and anger. And so it's like that's how I operated. I would suppress everything and find ways of disempowering myself that made sense because it was a feeling I was so used to having.
So you didn't have an outlet.
I didn't, and so it's like it's funny, we talk about it now, usually when we're like high at night, like, you know, in retrospect about our lives and the ways.
High on life.
High on life. The ways, you know, like just when we're done with the day and we're relaxed and we're just like having fun and we're visualizing what we want for our life and really reflecting on the ways of, you know, the ways we have lived our lives before and the ways, it's like, can you imagine, like, I feel like I had created so much success in my life for the metrics and standards that I viewed as successful then, you know, making it to WWE and getting the title and then starting my own business and all these like achievements and how did I create all those things with these beliefs about myself? But I created those things as I undoubtedly have a gift and a magic and a power within me. And I was creating these realities and experiences in my life, but could never enjoy them for what they were because of all the things I thought about myself.
Yeah.
And so it's funny to look back and think about all those things because when you're trying to really consciously change your behaviors and the ways that you have perceived the world so that you can experience more, it's like, it's so hard. It's so hard because you do one thing for so long, you think one way for so long, you feel one way for so long, and then you're like,
that's your world.
Yeah, and you're just like, I want to change.
You can't see anything else.
You can't, and it's like, so you have to follow a feeling, and that's essentially what happened when I met him. It's like, what I felt for him was so pure and so profound that I'm like, this is like, it felt like the truest thing I've ever felt.
But I feel like it's really important also to note that, like how you just said, like she had created all of this success in her life and all these things were happening and I have this gift, but like I couldn't enjoy any of it. It like goes to show that like every reality is happening all at once. Like all realities are going on, all possibilities are existing at one time. It's just, what are you able to see of yourself? You know, like we had a huge talk about it the other day, is like, you know, look at all of the amazing things that you have done and you haven't been able to actually witness or experience any of them because instead of like, our brain doesn't focus on the good or the accomplishments, our brain focuses on the threats. So it's like anytime we focus on the good, we immediately go, what are the threats within that? And then we go down this rabbit hole and immediately starts going to a negative
Every
place.
time.
Yeah.
So, okay, I want to flip it over to Grant, but before I get there, would you say that of all the men in your life that you've been hurt by the most, would that have been your father?
That is such a like.
Can I answer that? Help you with that?
Sure.
I think, yes, 100%. But it wasn't at his doing. It was on her interpretation of what she had to be for her mom. Like, that's what I have witnessed. And that's the most beautiful, powerful thing about the seat I get to be in. I get to watch from this outside because we can all observe things of other people when it's not us because we have our own justifications when it is us. Yeah. And it's like, I have gotten to sit and watch what has happened.
And thank you.
God damn it, I made you cry.
It's so emotional because, you know, we mentioned at the beginning of the show is that, so my dad died 3 days after Christmas. But, you know, I went 18 years without, when I turned 18, we stopped speaking. And it was through my own doing. And I had gone through so much in my teenage years and, you know, my mom. And I felt like so alone in that and not being able to help her. And I blamed him for a lot of it. And I just had this story about who he was. And I blocked so much of the love and you know, everything I loved about him and like with the way he saw the world and what he represented to me. It was like the way, it was like my heart. And you know, in our journey of like unfolding together, you know, doing what we do in our mission and, you know, on this planet and for ourselves, we struggled a lot. There was a lot of darkness in uncovering ourselves. And, you know, at the end of spring of last year, I felt this like wanting this desire to reach out to my dad because I wanted to understand myself, and I wanted to understand like a lot of this pain that I felt like I wasn't able to break through in our relationship and within my own heart. And so I reached out to him on Father's Day of 2022, and Grant helped me a lot with communicating. I reached out on Facebook, and he helped me so much because I didn't know how to get through my dad, and I don't know what to say to him, and he was sick. He was sick, and I didn't know, we met up, and long story short, I had these like amazing 4 or 5 months with my father, and it was like, it's everything I ever wanted, but it's like so sad that I lost him, but it's also like, it's so beautiful and like powerful and poetic, because I couldn't have had that if I didn't go through literally everything that I went through. And so it's like, he's been my, like, I always say that Grant is my ultimate teacher, and he is, but it's like my father taught me the hardest lessons that made me who I am, and brought me what I have in my life now. And it's so, when he died, it was so hard, and I had so much regret. Like, God, why didn't I just reach out? Why didn't I just connect, and I could have this? But it couldn't have happened any other way. And so I feel like, I'm going through this like really big transformation in my life. Both of us are right now, and it's like really big rebirth. And I feel like I am able to carry him like in my heart, his message and everything I ever saw and felt for him as a child. And now I can fully have that. And so we did a cool event on New Year's, and we did a little ceremony and dedicated it to my father. And Grant said, and we were facilitating in front of people, and they were all a part of it. It was so beautiful. And Grant was like, and I was sad, and I really wanted to do it justice, like how we honored my father. And he was like, that's the first New Year's that you truly got to be with him. And I was like, oh my God, it was. So,
wow.
Yeah. So a really powerful journey, but yes. Yeah.
Can I just tell you that, I think that it was really beautiful that you were able to have those last couple of months with him. I have a similar parallel in that I lost my mother in 2001. And prior to that, we had a really rocky relationship, and we weren't talking for a long time. And it's one of my biggest regrets that I'll carry with me to the day that I die, is that I didn't mend that bridge prior to her leaving. And I'm just thankful that I was able to be with her in those final moments. And that's all I was really given. And there was no resolve on either end of ours. And so I connect with you and sympathize on your loss of your father, but it's beautiful that you were able to have those last few months and carry that forward. And I don't know if this happened to you, but like there'd be times when I wouldn't even think about my mom when she was alive. Like there'd be days would go by, weeks would go by, and I didn't even think about her. Since she's been gone, I've thought about my mom every single day.
Yeah.
And like everything she's done. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. That's amazing. Wow, where do we go? Where do we go from there? Truly amazing. Thanks for sharing with that, Celeste. How do you, Grant, navigate being in each other's lives, knowing her past now and knowing the harm and hurt that has befallen in her life? And I know that you're like this great guy, but like, does it alter how you proceed at certain things to try not to, trigger anything, or are you still just treading forward the way you are and then hoping that that's what she needs, right?
Yeah, no, that really is.
That's a good question.
So it's a little bit of both, because, and I've actually experienced both within our relationship. Like when I completely drifted away from myself in the beginning of our relationship, because like, I think that was the idea of like, I went in and I was just like, I'm an open slate, I'm a clean slate. And that was like not her responsibility for anything. It's like, that was just where I was at. And where she was at was somewhere completely different. And so I was like, it must be me. So I kept like, just a little bit more, just like give a little bit more, understand a little bit more. And then I hit my point, and then I would start fighting back, and we would just argue. And it would be a thing where I'm like, what are you talking about? And it was because so much was perceived through this lens of like negativity or like, that's this word that you said means this. And it'd be like, you could say, I love you. But if somebody's always interpreted, I love you as you're an awful human being, I might be saying, it's just like love language.
Yeah.
It's the way you communicate. It's all these things. So while she can say that about me being her teacher, it's like she has been my greatest teacher. Like I literally had to, and it was because of how much I loved her and how much I truly saw her and cared about her, that it made me be like, all right, dude, you have to approach it differently. And it made me to start realizing like there's no reason to try and force what I think this word means or this phrase, or let me explain it to you so much. Let me actually understand what it means to you and where this is coming from. But there's also a very fine line. There's a cusp to ride, because I think in today's society, the way so many people view men is men in general, like certain men, like good men, which I'm going to lump myself into.
Generalizations, good. Yeah.
I'm going to lump myself into the category of a good guy. It actually can be very difficult to operate because it's already perceived that you're kind of a piece of shit. Like you're going to be oppressive, that you don't care about anything, that you're just a meathead, that you don't want to express emotions. And I absolutely fucking love that. I love the preconceived notions about me, because then it allows me to just kind of like break all that shit down.
I love presumption.
It's so good. It's so good.
It's like, let me tell you how wrong you are.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like, let me show you how wrong you
Yeah.
are. Like make you just sit there in awe and be like, what is any of this?
Don't one up me again.
Let
me show you.
I'm sorry, sir. But it's like, but yeah, because there becomes this, and that's what a relationship is this fine line of giving a little, but also like standing your ground on yourself. There's a difference between ignorance and arrogance. And it's like too many people, I believe, have found themselves in the plane of arrogance, when it's like, it's okay to be ignorant. But when we're ignorant, that just means you don't know what you don't know yet, like what you haven't learned. So you can never be faulted for only having as many answers as you currently do. But if you're telling yourself all the answers I have are all the answers in general, you're not going to be open to learning anything else, which now makes you arrogant, which makes you look at the other person and go, my way has to be the right way.
Judgment.
So it's the ability to ride that cusp of ignorance and be able to go, okay, maybe I don't know everything, but that just by default does not mean I'm wrong, but it doesn't mean that you're wrong either. So let's learn and like, let's figure out. And that's been the beautiful evolution of our relationship, to get to a point where we can start understanding each other and not see, because it's very difficult to go, your reality is your reality, my reality is my reality, and neither of them are reality. It's just it's our own interpretations based on our own upbringing, on every experience we've ever had, any pain point we've ever had. So it's like, and I think that's been the huge journey of our relationship, getting to this point. And like with what we do, it's so beautiful, because like I said, when you can't see your own shit when you're in it, it's like everybody can give awesome relationship advice to their best friends, but when it comes to them, when it comes to you, you can't take it. You're like, no, it's different. It's different for me.
You don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
Right.
It's because we all have our own justifications. So when we say what we do can be selfish, it's because like we can actually learn about ourselves through the people we're working with.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. It's such a blessing. But it's like, I can sit here and say all that shit, but like I have done dumb shit in relationships. I've cheated with the under good intention of, I'm not into this relationship anymore, and it's my obligation to secure and protect their emotions. If I were to leave them, it's going to hurt them. In order to re-excite myself into this relationship, I need to make it where I'm scared of something.
Yeah.
So I've cheated before to help myself get re-interested into the relationship that I felt stuck in.
But it's funny, like I think that the angle at which like drives.
Oh yeah, not in our relationship.
Yeah, no, but the angle,
to be clear, yeah.
But like the things that drove him in the past, or the same drivers that he knows how to like understand and hear and listen to in his body, are different than my drivers. But like I've also been like the relationship we have now is different than anything I've ever experienced before, and it's also, it makes me want to show up to it.
You mentioned that the relationship that you're in now with him is different than anything you've ever had. Has any relationship that you've ever been in, even your marriage, played a role in how you perceive him, in terms of like, well, this guy fucked up this way, and Grant's treading in similar territory, right? Or anything of that nature?
I think everything I've ever experienced in every single relationship, intimate or not, has contributed to, you know, what I experienced with him. But so much in the way of that, like, I can't really trust anything that anybody ever did in a relationship with me, whether they cheated or whatever, because I have the ability to now like feel safe enough within myself to go back and be like, what was I doing? What was I creating? What was I withholding in relationships that created that distance between?
So you angled it towards yourself.
And because
even if the guy was at fault?
I have been so done with the era of blaming others for my own dissatisfaction and emptiness inside. Yeah. And so I learned through our relationship that if there's something I want to experience different, it's up to me. It's up to me, whether that means it, and it changes every day. It's like what I listening to myself. It's that trust that I never had. All the trust that I cultivated was for me to be able to listen to my own heart, to my own instincts, to my own intuition, and to be able to trust it and know what I feel is true. So in every other relationship I've had, I had so many insecurities. I was guarded, and I had so many shame points and so many things that I was afraid for the other person to find out about me, because I judged myself so harshly. And because I had so much of that judgment, it skewed and it distorted the view of anybody I was ever in a relationship with. Like what he's saying, like entering into a relationship for, whatever. I know I would enter into relationships because I was just dying for connection. But when it got too close or too where I felt like there was a part of me that maybe would be exposed as what I consider inadequate or shameful or something I would never want someone to know about me because of like the way that I judged myself in my life, I would close up and I would push people away, and I would cheat and I would do dumb shit and I would hurt people. And like that was one of the biggest things that really broke my own heart in a good way. It's like you have to let your heart break. You do to experience the power of it. And like I think one of the biggest heartbreaks I ever experienced initially that I willingly faced was how much pain and hurt I caused others through my own pain.
Yeah, I think it's so important for like any women who are listening to this, because we work with a ton of women. Is women in general nowadays carry a very masculine energy about them. And it's because it's promoted and it's pushed very hard.
I talked about that in the first episode. It's like, this is why part of the Dumb Show exists, because collectively as men, we've ushered in this new era. Mm-hmm. We have facilitated a society where we failed collectively. Like not every guy, right? There's some good guys out there, right? But we're living in it. You see it everywhere. You hear it in music. You see it in advertising.
But women perpetuate it too. It's like it's.
I've never been a woman a day in my life, so I can't.
I'll tell you
speak on that behalf. But yeah,
women do perpetuate it, and it's not because it's through their own inability to recognize these things and the power within themselves to change how they feel. And so it's like, I can attest to that 100% in every aspect of my life, where I trap myself in my own emotions and I hold in my truth or what I want to express or my wants or desires or needs, because I don't feel safe expressing them. Not because someone else showed me that. It's because the way that I learned and the way that I was brought up through the world, through my own experience and my own beliefs and conclusions based on the pain I did receive as a child and the experiences that shaped me, which makes me everything that I am today. So I'm so grateful for all of it.
The biggest aspect that I want any woman to hear who feels like they're struggling with being stuck in that masculine energy, and any man who's with a woman who's super masculine and the man's going like,
what do I do?
How do I operate? How do I behave? Because so what I witnessed was the first like year or so of our relationship, she was so fucking masculine, so masculine that, and it kind of fit the role that I knew growing up, because my father was this big dude who, like, I was big. I've basically been this size since I was 12.
Yeah, and I see y'all's pictures. I'm like, gym time.
But like my dad, but I was always so scared of my dad. So it was like, he's the alpha. I cowered. Don't be big, but don't be too big.
Yeah.
And it was like, and that was the whole thing. I connected with my father through my size, because he would always be like, oh man, I was scared of him, but he would always be like, man, you're going to be like, Michael Jordan, you're going to do this. And he was,
I like your dad's voice.
He was little redneck. He was obviously very awful at basketball, but he was like, that was the whole thing. So it was always this, I was so proud to be this big dude.
Yeah.
Until we went to an amusement park and all my sisters and stuff, and they charged him for me, and kids 8 and under were supposed to be allowed to get in for free. And they charged him for me because they're like, there's no way he's under 8.
There's no way his kids, yeah.
Literally took me out to the parking lot, got another beer out of the van, and beat the shit out of me. And it was like this message that got sent to me, this thing that I feel like I connect with him over my size. It's like, no, you're too big though.
That's a detriment.
Yeah. So be big, but don't be too big. Like be good enough, do all the work, but don't actually expect to get it done. So when I had experienced that, I naturally kind of went into a more feminine role myself, because the masculine and feminine are not.
I can't picture that ever.
are not men and women. It's not male or female. It's not a gender. It is an energy within you. And both men and women have both. And it should be a balance of both. And both actually complement one another. And it was at the
I like rom-coms.
Yeah, dude.
Like I said it, okay?
But it's like with her, she was so masculine in everything, because masculine is logical. Logical is safe. So we stay in our heads and our brains when we feel unsafe, because I can take care of threats.
Have you always been that way, Celeste?
Very masculine.
Or is that something that came from something? I mean, WWE, maybe?
I think it's just an energy I've always carried of what I understood that would get me respect, success, power in the world, based on anything I ever saw.
Yeah.
So I just, and it's the way my mom carried herself. And to me now I can, but it was a very like wounded way of being masculine in my own right. Like I didn't feel like I had that protection and security within, but the way I acted was guarded and closed off. And like he's saying, very, very logical. It didn't feel safe for me to be in my emotions, to be in my body, which is the feminine, which is to be able to listen to your feelings, your desire, your heart, all of the intangibles, to be able to trust like your intuition. And so to me, those are the feminine qualities I've worked at being able to access and embody over the last 4 years. I didn't have those tools before. I had the emotions, I had those things coming through, but I didn't know how to embody it, because I had so much fear and I had so much armor on that I walked through the world in a very masculine way, and I was closed off to a lot of things. I was closed off to a lot of like guidance, male guidance, paternal roles in my life, because I didn't understand them. They didn't make sense to me. So it was just like, I'm going to create my own version of what I think it means to be, powerful or have respect.
It was in the moment on the road trip to Vegas. You had been so masculine up until this point, and she looked at me, and we were talking about, we were having this deep conversation, and it was something I had thought before, and I was like, there's no way I could ever present this to her, because it would be a defensive thing. Mm-hmm. And she looked, and she was like, I realize now, like, how much I took into my marriage. Up until that point, she was the victim of everything that had happened in her marriage. It was only her ex who had done all these things. She's like, but like, she owned it.
Now she's owning it, yeah.
She owned it. And in that moment, I literally, from that moment forward, she started softening. And by softening, it was like being in the feminine more. And it was in the moment, because she literally stopped going, I'm the victim. If you're the victim, then that means there's a threat. What's that?
Did you want this?
Yeah.
Open it? Okay, good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I wanted it for her.
We both did,
and I wanted it. I mean, I wanted it for our relationship. But I wanted it for her more than anything, because it's like, if somebody else is always doing everything to you, you have no power over changing it. And if you have no power over changing it, then you're always being attacked. And if you're always being attacked, then you always have to keep yourself safe. And if you have to always keep yourself safe, you're always going to be in your masculine.
God, you're good.
But if you think about it like the gym, if people who get in the mindset of like, I got to go to the gym every day and train all the time and everything, they don't ever let themselves recover, because recovery seems weak. Feminine seems weak. So let's call the recovery phase would be like the feminine, and being in the gym would be the masculine. So it's like, let me be more masculine. All you're doing is you're constantly breaking everything down. You're never recovering and replenishing.
Nourishing yourself, listening to yourself.
I've never heard it put like that, but it makes sense. I've known that, but the way you worded it was freaking awesome.
Well,
think about such a gift of articulating.
Well, think about war. Think about battle. If you're always the one that's on duty, and you never get the opportunity to sleep, when the actual battle, when the other team or when the other army comes at you, you're going to be shit. You're not going to be able to take anything on. But you're out there and you're staying out there going, I can't go sleep and recover myself, because
you don't want to put your guard down.
That's weak. That's weak. It's everyone's in this mindset of like, go more, sleep less, harder days, train more, like work longer hours. And it's like, why don't you just fucking work more intelligently? Like, work hard. Yes, you have to learn how to work hard. Yeah. But then you can like learn how to work efficiently and effectively, because there at some point you're not even sleeping 3 hours a night is not genius for anyone. It doesn't make you an entrepreneur, and it doesn't make you some boss. It makes you dumb, actually, really dumb. And then you do dumb shit because your brain's not functioning. You're not creative. You're not able to take anything into your business.
God, I need you guys back. We got like 5 minutes left, but like, wow, it just breezed by. I want to focus let's shift away from dumb shit for a little bit. We'll talk about you guys just as Project This Is Me, just for a little bit to close this out. And we'll definitely have to schedule a time for you guys to come back in a few months for sure.
We'd love to.
We'd love to.
Tell me about This Is Me.
Take her away, Russ.
So Project This Is Me, it's a business that we started together about 2 years ago.
Yeah, coming up on 2 years.
Yeah, so we do speaking, coaching, and just live experiences, very transformative experiences, and we work with people to be able to access themselves, to feel confident in who they are, to step into who they are, to be able to speak in any arena on any stage, to be able to be the person that attracts the life partner they're looking to call in, to
realize that they're the vessel, like they're the vessel, they're the modality. It's like everyone's always looking, it's like what business should I go with, like whatever. It's like whatever business we have is just like this podcast. It's a vessel that you're using to share a message with the world, and it's a gift. And it's like whatever business we do, that's your purpose, and it's like that's just the way of getting your gift out to the world. So we do it through that, but we help other people access that within themselves, because those are the parts. It's like we help people stop using external answers to try to fill those internal questions, and that's the goal of all of it. So whereas all these coaching programs and mentorships and masterminds out there, they typically talk about, we're going to make you 6 figures. We're going to take your business to this. We're going to make your body look like this and whatever. We're going to take you back to neutral. You're like 6,000 feet under right now. But if you could get back to, you've never been at neutral. You haven't been at neutral since you were probably born.
Wow.
And it's like, because you've just buried yourself over and over. Like when you hear shit like you already have everything inside of you, people kind of are like, no, I need to acquire more. But it's because you've never known it. You've never accessed it. Your creativity, the business you want to do, the person you want to be with, that great fucking $1 million idea, it is inside of you. The way you want to market, you can do it. You know how to do it. It's just, it's covered up with a pain point here, a conclusion here, a phrase you heard someone say here that you said, I'm not allowed to be this thing. So it's like we help people, and we compare all these to like pieces of sheer cloth. Like if you hold up one piece of sheer cloth, you can still see light. You hold up 2, you can still see light, but less. And every time you hold up more, a little bit less, until it gets to the point where it's a solid object and you can't see anything on the other side of it. And that's all we have is like these layers of trauma, pain, coping mechanisms, defensiveness, things that we've experienced throughout life, and those become our conclusions. So it's like we take people and we hear them say this little bit, and that's the message that they're willing to let the world hear about them. But what we hear in the background is like we hear everything that you're not saying, and then we kind of connect it, present it back to you in a way that they're like, oh shit. And that truth stops your pattern long enough, your subconscious pattern long enough to hear a message. So you're no longer defensive to it, and now you can receive it, you can hear it, and then you can start implementing change. So we help people. It's not just, we don't just tell you these things, we then help you embody them. We help you learn how to control and your nervous system.
Yeah.
I can't think of a better couple that would like tackle something like that on, man. Okay, so if somebody's interested in like, how do they get a hold of you? Like, what's the process like, you know?
The easiest way right now, because we're redoing our website.
Our website will be done in like a week. It's been like a 6-month process.
Yeah,
but it'll be done in about a week, and it's just thisisme.live.
But
you guys need coaching.
We do. But the easiest way is through our Instagrams. Is you can just shoot us a DM, and we like to chat about and the people that usually come to us identify as leaders, speakers, facilitators, coaches, rule breakers, game changers, people that are like, I have something so strong within me. People like us, visionaries, people that have a big vision, and we help them really bring it to life. And so
it's people that are like, they're like just almost right there.
Yeah.
It's like one click away. It's almost like you're on the outside of this glass dome looking in at the life, everything you want. And you're just like a mime. And you're like,
you're giving them the hammer.
Yeah.
We're not only that, we're just like shifting you just a little bit, because you didn't realize this entire time you've only been like a foot away from the entrance. And it's like we just help shift you just a little bit.
I like the hammer better.
Yeah, whatever your vision is. But
Yeah.
my Instagram is it's my full name. It's Celeste Bonin, at Celeste Bonin, and Grant's is...
Mine is just Grant Dziak. I'm like DZIAK.
Yeah. But yeah, we're always in DMs chatting, and
we're gonna put that link in the video
Cool.
on YouTube. And yeah, guys, it's been awesome. Let me get one last final thought. Grant, all the dumb dudes out there, give them some advice real quick, wrap it up, and then we'll switch it over to Celeste.
Yeah, man. And actually, it's bizarre. I put it in my stories this morning. It was this thought I had, and I think I was thinking about being on here today. And it's like, just for one day, try to not trade your brilliance, your magnificence, the beauty as a male. Like, accept that you have these qualities within you, and try to not trade your beauty, your magnificence, your excellence, everything that you really are, the gift that you are. Try not trading that for acceptance.
Yeah.
Just for a day and just see what happens.
Wow. Thank you. Celeste, to the dumb dudes out there.
And I think for anyone, but especially the men, is everything that all of the acceptance and the desire to be received and held and supported by a woman or a partner. So much of that, all of that is held within your own trust of yourself, of trusting what it is that you actually want in your life, and not the ideas of what it means to be a man, but what it means to be a man to you, what that feels like in your heart, and being able to trust that, and trusting that for you to speak those things vulnerably is undoubtedly, and this will be true until the end of time, is when you allow yourself to speak vulnerably in truth, you will undoubtedly attract that person that is ready for that truth, that
It's your
was
best
ready
signal.
to receive that truth, is your people, whether it's your intimate partner, your crew, your business partner, whatever it is. When you speak that truth, when you can honor it and feel it fully within yourself, and find a way to transmit it to the world, you will open yourself up to the people who are meant for you.
Wow. Grant, Celeste, I love you guys.
We
love you, brother.
Oh my God.
Thank
You
so
guys
much,
are
man.
so fucking amazing. It's been a breath of fresh air having you guys on as the first guest, no less.
Such an honor.
Yeah, we're
An
so
honor.
honored.
We'll definitely have you guys back. Guys, please follow them. This has been another episode of The Dumb Show. I'm Omar Marcos. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. Hit that notification button. Leave a thumbs up, comment. And on Instagram, it's The Dumb Show Podcast on Instagram. We'll see you next time, guys.